Welcome everyone to some fire support planning class. So for those of you who don't know me, everybody should know me. I am Shay Howard. I'm the S3, the operations officer, and the resident FA guy, I guess. All right. So for this class, I said in the last couple of classes, and it was more give and take, or more give. So I'd like to have some interaction and questions. So if you guys have questions, please jump in, chime in. You're not going to learn this you're not going to learn that just sitting there and listening and stuff. Besides, it's boring as hell to listen to me talk. So, yeah, Bay, I'd asked for you guys to give me some, objectives. What do you want to get out of this class? Did you guys come up with anything?
We did talk about it, and I mean, the history is a good information for us to reflect on. I think one of our main concerns are like, how would we perform these in OAL? So possibly narrowing it down just a little bit, sir, and seeing a little more of what would be expected and how would we go about doing all the tactic stuff. I believe. Sir, I think you're muted.
Son of a bitch. Hey, Bay, it's your fault. You waited way too long to tell me. All right. What the hell did I say? All right. So I mean, that's kind of just what I did. So initially, I was asked to give a call for fire class on this, but when I was going through it, I realized for OAL, you guys really need to know how to plan targets and how to support the maneuver with fires and how to integrate it into it, because that's the number one. I mean, that's what you're going to be really looked at. Later, I'll come back and give a call for fire class later on the year before either the summer or the beginning of the semester, before you guys go to the call for fire simulator. That way you'll be straight. Don't worry, this stuff's easy. Just takes time, just like anything else. All right, without that, I'm going to continue on. We're going to focus on the planning portion of it. Some administrative crap. Hey, like I said before, please ask questions if you don't understand something. Here are my references. Yeehaw. And this is what we're going to do. So we'll try to tie this into what Sergeant Ream was teaching last week with the offensive characteristics, and then we're going to weave in the fire support. I'm going to give you a bunch of high level stuff over fire support. I'm going to go through those really quickly so we can get to what we really need to get at, and that's planning, and then we'll end it up with a practical exercise. All right. Last week, what did Sergeant Ream talk to you guys about the characteristics of offense? What are they?
One of them is a surprise.
All right, we got surprise.
Audacity.
Audacity.
Concentration.
Concentration. Starts with the T. All right, you guys got 3 out of 4. Not bad. Okay, so my question is, how does fires fit into those characteristics of the offense? Anybody got any thoughts? Throw out random ideas.
Artillery coming out of nowhere can create a lot of surprise, which can start the tempo and maintain, kind of give you the initiative right off the bat.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Come out of nowhere. That's right. Very good. Anybody else?
Yeah, if you can pin down the enemy with fire and get them confused, then they won't be able to maneuver or do anything because you're too busy shooting the hell out of them.
Exactly. All right, good. You guys kind of get it? Anybody else? All right. How do I stop sharing? There it is. So I was trying to figure out how to weave this video in here, but I failed every time, so now we just have to do it manually. If you've seen Danger Close, you know what this is. You have to see. You see. Okay, so somebody said that it was you couldn't really see it. All right. So anyway, what that was is it's probably one of the better artillery show clips that I've ever seen showing the artillery guys in action. So what you got? If it came through and you guys were able to see it, what did you see? Or do you have any thoughts on it?
And blowing them up.
Yeah, they're blowing up, but all right. So evidently it came in awful. So what you saw, what you should have seen was a platoon of Australian infantry guys pinned down by heavy fire. Couldn't move at all. They called in danger close artillery on them, and then you kind of say, "Oh, the whole system in process." It's kind of what I'm going to talk about. All right, so fire support. What is fire support? Anybody got an idea what fire support is? Okay, here's the definition for it. So what I want to point out here is that it is the rapid and continuous integration of fires. It never really stops. Once you start planning for fires, it is continually updated, or it constantly changes. Just like when you make a plan and you go out to fight the enemy has a vote. Your plan start. You don't fight the plan. You adjust to what the enemy is doing. Same thing with fire support. It is continuously changing to support the maneuver. Yeah. So I think I learn better by pictures and stuff. So that's really what this thing is all about. At the top, you got the fire support. That's what we just talked about, what its purpose was. And it's achieved through the rapid and continuous integration of the fire support system, which we'll talk about in a minute. By applying these functions and guided by these principles and characteristics down here. So we're just going to roll through these really quick. The fire support system is made up of three parts. All right, your C2 is, you got the FIS cord. We're the one oversees all of the fire support operations. And then you got the FSEs. They're the maneuvers representative at the table with the all of the fire support assets. And then you got the command posts, which are everybody who owns the toys. They have a say in this whole process about how many artillery tubes I have, how many bombs I have on my aircraft, how many sorties I can fly, how many mortar rounds are going to be there. And then you got your target acquisition. So that starts with the intelligence, developing an idea or sit temp where the enemy is at. And the fire support guys work hand in hand with them to, if they think it's relevant or it's going to affect the operation, they target those locations. And then they assign folks either assets like people, like forward observers, or they have radars or satellites, or whatever. They are watching these areas to trigger some kind of an attack. And then, of course, you got the delivery systems. And everybody wants to think about lethal, but we also have just as important and probably more long-term impactful, well, definitely more long-term impactful, is the non-lethal capability. All right, so that's the system. It makes up 3 parts. In a few minutes, I'm going to boil it down to what's important to you. Hang on. Let me get through the high-level stuff. So our functions, I mean, simple. Support the concept of operations. Support those guys in contact. But it's got to be synchronized and converged, and converged where we need it. Here's our characteristics. Somebody said it already. A surprise or massing of artillery fires. But we want to put the fires where we need it to support the maneuver, but we want to do it synchronized with the maneuver and synchronized across all of the assets that are doing it. And we always think in the offense, even when we're in the defense, we think of how artillery is going to be employed in the offensive. Then you got your head guy quote down there. He was a Vietnam colonel, infantry. All right, some of the principles. And I just want to, the only reason I'm really showing this is I want you to kind of take away a few things. Plan early and continuously. Provide rapid coordination, which means get rid of the middleman. You'll know what I'm talking about here in a little bit. You want to be able to talk to the assets that's shooting for you so that you can get immediate fires. And so that means cutting out the middleman. All right. So that means you got to set your plan up to be able to support that. And then you got to have max amount of flexibility in your plan. Because as I just said, never going to fight the enemy, not the plan. Yeah, make sure that the main effort's weighted so that the fires can weigh in on that decisive operation. And never put artillery in the reserve. Because if you have it and you're not using it, you're not shaping the battlefield to be successful. All right, what does this all mean to you? All right, so we're going to talk about the team. So I just talked about the team. It's made up of how many parts? What are they? Anybody?
That was your C2. That was your first part.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's one.
Target acquisition.
Okay. Good. All right. So 3 parts. We'll dumb it down. You got your eyes and ears out there, identifying the target. You got your brains. That's like the C2s. They're the ones taking the information from the eyes and ears, turning that into some kind of data that the brawn or the delivery system can actually engage the target with. So let's think about this. Everybody here has fired a rifle. Are there any hunters here? Anybody hunt? Okay, so you've all been to a range. Hopefully, you've been to one that's got up to 300 meters. how hard it is to hit that 300-meter target consistently, to have a tight shot group on that 300-meter target. Pretty difficult. Let's talk about when the wind starts blowing, when the dust picks up, when it's raining. All right, we'll move that out to 600 meters. Holy crap, starts to get really difficult, right? Your consistency, if you're not practicing over and over and over, and to understand how the air density, the the wind, how you're, how much propellant is in each of the bullets. Is it consistent? Is the makeup of the projectile the same weight? A lot of things go into, thanks, Sergeant Ring, internal and external ballistics. It has to be consistent. Now think about this. Let's shoot over a hill with that weapon. Right? You're going to shoot over a hill. You can't see where it's going. So how in the world do you target it? How do you be consistent? How do you put that round where it needs to be, especially sometimes within close proximity of other folks? It's tough. So that's why you have this team. This whole system is important. So we start out with the eyes and the ears. All right, you get mostly that's your FO. That's what we all know it as. It could also be some kind of piece of equipment like a radar or a satellite or some kind of sensor. So it picks up something and triggers an event that we can deliver fires upon. You also got your UAVs, rotary wing, fixed wing. They can all identify targets and pretty much adjust targets. Almost anybody. We even let infantry and cavalry guys call in fires. It's, anybody. It's just like Sergeant Marine. All right, then you got the brains. So that's like, it boils down to the fire direction center. It's taking the information from the FO, put it in the computer or charts and darts, and it's translating that information into data that either the aircraft or the surface-to-surface stuff can actually hit the target. Now, at this point, this is what I was talking about, facilitating rapid fires. If the FO can talk directly to the FDC that's in charge of the guns, you have facilitated very responsive fires for the most part. However, I'll back up. I'll come back to that. All right, let's talk about the brine. This is the delivery system. So the one you guys are going to be most associated with is FOs, no, not FOs, or the mortar systems. Of course, you got cannon artillery, and then you got missiles and rockets. And our rotary wing brothers. Some fixed wing, an Army asset that we let go long ago that we should have. And then, of course, you got your sister services like naval gunfire. And then, along with the Navy comes those Navy boys. This is for you, Sheehan. And then, of course, you got everybody's favorite, the Air Force. So those are all delivery systems for the maneuver. Okay. So what you want to do to facilitate it, you want to be able to talk to the FDC that's in control of those guns to get rapid fires. Now, to get attack aviation, to get CAS or any of that stuff, you're not going to be able to talk directly to that C2 immediately. You're going to have to go through layers of echelonment to get approval. There are some caveats to that. If you're given priority of fire or dedicated assets, that's the only caveat. But otherwise, you're going to have to go through your boss, your fire support element, and your maneuver commander all the way up the chain to whatever level that this asset is at. And then it's going to come back down the chain to the fire direction center that owns the asset. Sometimes that could be 2 or 3 echelons. Sometimes that could be all the way up to corps, depending on what it is. But that used to be pretty long, and nobody really asked for core assets because when they needed it, because it just took so long. But now in the day of digital, it's almost instantaneous. You put in a request, it goes digitally transferred to all those assets. As long as everybody hits approve, it's down to the Fire Direction Center, and then you can talk directly to them. All right. Any questions over the team? Everybody understand the triad of fire support? All right. Yeah, I see B. I think you're the only one I can see. All right. So fire support planning, kind of talked about it. This is what you're going to do with it. So as you are making the maneuver plan, if you're in charge of making the fire support plan, you're planning concurrently. And it's continuously being updated. All right, fire support coordination. Now you're going from the planning to the coordination. Now you're talking about assets and walking them through each of your concept, your maneuver concept, your fires concept, and you're doing rehearsals and you're refining it every time it changes. Okay, so here's where we're at. This is what you need to know. How does it apply to you? I'm going to answer these questions for you. Or we're going to answer them together. God, I hate teaching over this. I have no feedback from you guys. I have no idea. Like Barnes is trying to stay awake. Click is probably listening to music. And Stoney is just happy to be here. All right, so we're going to answer these questions and finally get down to how in the world you are going to plan fires. So that menu over there to the left, that's going to kind of keep you on track about which one of these we're talking about as we go through it so you don't get lost, because I may forget to tell you. All right, why? We kind of talked about this. Why do you plan? Because you have to. You got to get everybody on the same sheet of music. Like I said, you cannot see where you're shooting. No fucking clue where you're seeing or where you're at. So if we're not on the same sheet of music, people die, and it won't be the bad guys. Okay, simple enough, right? All right, when would you do this planning? Anyone?
As right before, like as you're planning out your op board.
Yes, very good. Right, I just said that. So as you're making the maneuver plan, you're doing the targeting plan. So while you're in the patrol base, when you're doing TLPs, anytime you get a frago, a warning order, any of that stuff, you are planning. All right, so who are we planning for? Now, the first question is who is going to look at my target? Because like I said, the assets can't see where they're shooting, so somebody's got to see it, right? And this is the first part of our team. Who? These are all the people that can observe for you. We kind of went over that. We'll move forward. Anybody got a question? Makes sense, right? Okay, so who's going to shoot for you? Here's the second part of that team. You know, who is going to shoot for you tells you a lot. It's going to determine how big that circumference, the diameter of the burst is. If you're doing surface to surface fires or even air to surface fires, it's going to tell you how you can control it. Different options once you learn how to do this, and the different ways you can engage it. Because with different systems, like with artillery, they can go low angle, high angle. Mortars are only high angle. The significant difference between low angle and high angle is amount of time it gets to you. High angle takes a long time to get to you. However, you got to shoot it when you're going over mountains, or you're trying to get into trenches or something like that. The release authority, like I was telling you before, that third part of the triad, the FTC, how many echelons do you have to go through to get to that FTC? Am I directly tied to them because I got priority fires, or do I need to go request permission to get that? And then lastly, but probably one of the most important things that people forget when the shit hits the fan, because it's hard to think of all this stuff. is danger close, excuse me, and risk estimate distances. I was going to put the table in here from joint fires, but if this is being recorded, it is being recorded, right? Yeah. So if this is being recorded, I can't put it on here because I can't control the distribution of that. Anyway, what this says is what those smart dudes, those nerds, they took every piece of weapon system with every different type, not every one, but most common types of munitions, and they just shot. They put a target out there. They had one standing up, and somebody in the prone, and they just kept shooting and shooting and shooting at it until they came up with some kind of probability. So a 1%, a 0.1% probability of incapacitation, that 1 in 1,000, somebody's going to get incapacitated. That tells you how close you can walk those fires to you until you start taking some real risk. It's a very significant risk. So at 600 meters out, that's danger close. We know that the rounds are getting closer, and we have to control how them. We have to control the fires as they creep towards us. And once we get to that red, now that maneuver commander, who is the approval authority of all fires, now has to say, yes, I accept the risk that we could kill our own guys because we're getting that close. And that's really what it tells you. The danger close is kind of like that orange line that, hey man, watch out, watch out. The reds, risk estimate distance, is like that red line. So you're about to do something seriously wrong. Are you sure you want to do this? All right, any questions? All right, let's move to what? Since we're talking about the delivery systems, and the size of their impact, how do we put that on a map? Because that also affects the target type. So up there you see the definition of target. Really, I mean, that's the joint definition. Just focus on number one. That's what you guys are going to use it for. And there's, what is that, 5 different types of targets. You guys will be more, you guys use target of opportunity the most. A planned target is what you will be used to. That's what you spend most of your time with. And then priority targets help you focus the indirect assets or even air to surface assets to be responsive to you. So those are the 3 that you're really going to use the most. And throughout the rest of this, we're going to talk about planned targets. Okay, targets of opportunities. You just see it's in kind of like a meeting engagement. That turns into a coffee fire, which I'll talk about later, or at a different class. All right, so what do they look like on a map? So you got your point target, your linear target, and circular target. Not only do you have an icon there, but you also put the target number. So that first one, it really looks like something else that you guys use on a map, especially when you're at a patrol base and you make a sector sketch. What would that be? CRP, target reference point. When you draw your sector sketch, it's a cross, except for it has CRP on it. This one has a target number. That's how you differentiate. All right, the next one is a linear target. So let's say you got a trench line you want to attack. Maybe you want to throw some smoke out there, or you're targeting a road, or you're doing a blocking fires. That's what this linear target is. It spreads rounds along that line. Now, and depending on what asset you have, so if you have 60mm mortars and you don't have 2 of them at the company, they're not going to be able to spread it out 400 meters. You need like a battalion of artillery for that. So the burst radius, or the burst diameter of each of the munitions for that asset is going to tell you how wide you can make this linear target. Now you can still make it wider, There'll just be bigger gaps in there. It's really what is the purpose of your target, which we'll get to in a little bit. Then lastly, you got a circular target. Circular targets, when you're not exactly sure where it's at, or maybe you found the guys in the back, the rimps, and you just want to target those, and they have this big fob, so we're putting a big circle target over there, and we're shooting the hell out of it. All right, questions about those? No, all right. Now, here's a special linear target, final protective fire. As you can see there, this is an immediately available target. So if you have an FPF active and the unit that's firing it, they are always laid on that FPF, just like if you told your machine gun to lay on the FPL and stay on it because we're about to get overrun or whatever. Your FPF, final protective fire, is the same thing. All the guns that are associated with this target are laid on that target. They have the rounds ready to go. And any time that you say fire red, we will, they'll fire it. So you normally use the FPF when you're a defensive position, maybe when you're a patrol base, but again, the type of asset tells you how close the FPF can be. And ideally, since an FPF is supposed to be close to you within 600 meters, it doesn't have to be, but if you really want it to be effective and it's tied into some kind of obstacle or the terrain, then it needs to be shot. Each tube needs to be shot, either mortars or artillery for each of those target locations, just to make sure it's accurate. Because you're getting below that 600 meters and then you're getting close to your reds. So this is one of the targets that before you actually fire it, if you have time and if it's feasible, you would want you want your systems to shoot each one of their guns onto there just to make sure it's right. Somebody had a question. Also, the convention names. All right, so the question is, where do you get the target numbers? Well, it's really based on SOP. So your fire support element, whoever's in charge, would pre-designate target block numbers for your element. So Alpha Company will have Kilo Yankee 2100 to 2200, Bravo Company 22 to 23, and it goes on and on and on. So if you are planning a target, you go into your target block. So if we're Alpha Company and we have 2100, would be Kilo Yankee 2100. The next target I plan 2101 or 21001. And those I submit to hire to my FSC for it to be approved. Once it's approved, then you can put it on your target list. Does that answer your question, Barnes?
Roger, sir.
Now, the other way you get a target number is if you have a target opportunity, you shoot it, and your message to observer, they will tell you the target number. And you can come back to that any time later if you're in the general vicinity and shoot that target number. So I'm sorry, let me back up. We see somebody, we have immediate engagement, we call it immediate suppression. The FTC will send you a message to observer that says, has a target number in it. At any time with your in that area, you can pull up that target number and shoot it because everybody knows what the target number is because it was generated from the FTC. Sometimes you're going to generate it. I probably just confuse the hell out of you. All right. Where are we at? Okay, and then you got the chart, tells you the size of your FPF. Any questions on FPF? All right. Okay, real quick, how you can have multiple targets and group them. In a group, they are engaged simultaneously. So we would shoot each one of those targets all at once. Anybody think of a advantage or disadvantage of doing that?
You can get the guns focused on one area.
Yeah, so we're achieving surprise, right? Because we're shooting all of it at the same time. Anybody think of a disadvantage of that?
It's harder to be more accurate, focus on one target.
Yeah, true. What I'm kind of fishing for, well, I mean, what you're saying is absolutely true. 9 times out of 10, when you shoot artillery or mortar, they're not going to hit the target the first time. There's 17 elements that you have to account for to be able to hit good, accurate, predictive fire. That's a lot. And even accounting for all those 17 elements, you still can't hit the target because there's something out there that we can't account for. So attacking all of them at the same time, Barnes, you're right. If they were off, then an observer would have to adjust each one of those onto the target, which would take more time. However, we did achieve surprise, and if they're close to the targets, we're getting effects on. And maybe we don't want to destroy, maybe we're just trying to suppress. So it means keep their head down so the maneuver can maneuver. So another disadvantage is that if you have 2 mortar, 60mm mortars, and you got 3 targets, well, you're going to engage 2 at one time, and it's 1 round per, and then somebody's got to move to the 3rd target. Yada, yada. So you're just spreading your assets out. If you go back to one of the principles that we talked about earlier, mass, if you mass the fire support onto a target, you have a better chance of achieving your effects. And that's what series does for you. And you more or less are attacking each target in this series, but it's going sequentially. Advantages, disadvantages?
Advantage could be that you're actually eliminating one target, and you know where your mortars
Exactly.
are.
You're massing on one target. You're putting everything you got on one target to achieve effects. Now, the disadvantage is that you lose in surprise. The first target absolutely has surprise. The second, third targets probably won't be as surprised, right? That's the biggest disadvantage. Okay. So we kind of talked about why you playing fire sport, when you plan it, who do we plan it for, and what are we planning? But where do we plan the targets at? Okay, it really depends. So this is when your enemy sit temp comes in and into play. Now you don't want to target every one of those things, otherwise you wouldn't be able to see the map with all the targets on there. But you choose them wisely. All right, so it's kind of damn. Thought I had anyway. You want to consider planning just like you do your priority rehearsals. And why do I say that? Because if you're short of time, plan the most important one first. Just like Sergeant Ream told you about planning for the attack. You start with on the objective first, and you work your way back. That way you built a timeline using backwards timing. And then you know how long you have to plan for all this stuff. So considerations, start on the objective. Look beyond the objective because you don't know how long you're going to be on the objective for, so you want some kind of protective fires. And then back up from LD to the objective during our movement? Will we need any fires to facilitate our movement? Do we think we're going to run into the enemy, have an immediate engagement? I mean, 9 million out of a 10 million, you're never going to put the target on where the enemy is going to show up. But putting a target out there helps orient the systems that are going to shoot for you, and has a quicker response. So the best way I can explain this to you, if you've been out to, a pop-up range and you're looking down the center, where most of the target's at, that damn 50-meter target is over here to your left or over here to your right. And you got to see it with your peripheral, right? So shifting from its center to the left or to the right takes time, right? But if you're already oriented, you think it's going to come up and you're already oriented there, but you don't see it, you just got to make a small shift, it's quicker. That's what it is for the artillery and mortars too. If they have the data to orient their tubes on the target that's close proximity where you're at, that means less adjustments, less time, you get faster response. If that makes any sense. All right. All right, on the objective, why would we want to put fires on the objective? All right, no kidding. We want to kill the enemy on the objective before we get there, right? It'd be nice just to walk up there on the objective and not have to have a gun bite them. I have to put my soldiers at risk. Be nice for that to happen. Or we need to be able to maneuver, so we're going to suppress them, keep their head down. Once we were achieving overwhelming firepower, maybe they're running away, but we don't want them to run away because we want to kill them before they have a chance to go back and get reinforcements to tail higher or reconstitute or whatever. So we put out blocking fires to prevent their withdrawal. Or maybe the reinforcements are coming while we're on the objective. We want to slow down the reinforcements. That make sense? All right, beyond the objective. So once you get to the objective, you're on the objective. What if you transition to the defense? You need to be thinking about planning fires beyond the objective. Again, what they do is they do exactly what I just said. Now, maybe the third one down there, once you get ready to pull off the objective and you've been there for a while and you know the counterattack's coming, maybe you want to throw some smoke out there. Lots of smoke, not just your smoke that you carry. I mean, it's a big ass smoke. And then pull off the objective. All right. Going to the objective en route, where do you think that you're going to have contact at? And the last one down there, is if you have a longer movement, you guys are going to have short movements, so you should probably only have one target. But if you have a long movement, you have targets and you're just shifting to the next target once you get in proximity of it, so you have fast response time. Now you won't have to plan any targets in the, or you can, I'm sorry, let me back up. Before we get to the line of departure, you could plan some targets. If you have intel that there are recon assets out there, or I don't know, once you leave the objective, you come back to the patrol base, you want some kind of defensive fires, you could do that. Okay. Anybody have a question before we get into this? All right, so we worked backwards. Now we're going to work forwards. So short of the line of departure, what are these for? Okay, great. All right, so if you had some recon elements that, while you were trying to plan, they would kind of come up there. This is what could be. It could be for that. For OAL, guys, don't worry about that part of it. Now we cross LD, and we're starting to move to the objective. What are these targets for? First of all, if you look in the background, if you can see there's a hill right here, there's Big hill here, big hill here, another one here. Maybe that'll help you.
Is it pre-designated targets? So if enemies pop up there, you can just
Right.
hammer away.
Yeah, so this one over here in the right-hand corner down here, probably an observation post. Post. This one over here to the left of that could be a unit staged at the base of that hill on the other side of it. You know, it's where the enemy is templated to be at when you're moving. Okay. Right. Now we get to the objective. What are these for? To pound the shit out of the enemy. Come on. So you can just walk up there and count bodies. And then lastly, beyond the objective. Okay. Now I'm just gonna go through these real quick. The rest of them. Is there any question about fire sport in the offense?
At OAL,
Uh-huh.
how much of this are we going to be expected to use? Are we going to be expected to just kind of hit on objective, or have some of these more complex things, or targets rather?
Well, I would, if I were you, depending on the distance for the movement, I would definitely have one for the movement, and I would have one for the objective. Minimum. That's what I mean, you don't have to have any of these at all. You can just all use target of opportunities. You can call immediate suppression, whatever. But planning it facilitates a rapid response and gives you, fires when you need it. So you could put one in your movement, or you don't have to. If you don't know if there's a threat, if there's nothing in the situation that says, hey, you could be hit, or we think they're here, you're just throwing a target out there just to have it out there. To be honest with you. If there's intel in there, then target it. Now, this one on the objective, I would definitely put a target on the objective. Or beyond the objective, whichever one you want to do. Okay, so on the objective, that's to destroy the enemy on the objective. Or if I'm putting one off the objective, and I'm going to put it probably right in here, so it blocks their retreat from the objective, going, I'm going to call it south because it's the bottom, through this little pass to get out of there. So I want to block them before they get off that objective, so that we have time to pursue and destroy them. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so for you guys, I would say one target at minimum, and that's either on the objective or beyond the objective, and maybe another one during movement. Now, I said, could be based upon distance. So if this distance from the line of departure to the objective is only 400 or 500 meters, what did I say danger close was? 600 meters, right? So we're already under 600 meters. So the one on the objective is going to have to do, and it's already danger close. That one, I wouldn't even put it there. Because you've got one here, you can shift 300 meters easily. Okay? So most of your movements are going to be under 600 meters. So one target on the objective or beyond it. Now, if you get on the objective and you transition into a defense, here's your considerations. In front of the defensive position, on it, and behind it. You say that makes no sense whatsoever. Okay. So in front of it, let me just get to the graphic that's easier to explain. So our defensive position is right here, this company battle position. The enemy's coming here with a red arrow towards us. So you want to target where the enemy is coming from, where we think the main effort's coming from. Their route. And then we want them to come right in here in this EA, engagement area, because that's where we're going to destroy them at. So we may throw a target out here to catalyze them inside, and one over here. So it's like a big funnel. They come all right down here, and this is where we destroy them. So target enemy out of your approach. Key terrain, I forgot about that. Observer, they could have recon out there watching us. So you could target key terrain, your obstacles to catalyze, and then destroy in the EA. Okay, so for you, if you're in the defense, it really all depends on the terrain. If you have a road coming up to you, I would definitely target the road as blocking fires with an FPF. If you don't have any high-speed avenue of approach, then and you don't have, then I would probably look at where could the enemy see you, i.e., this Alpha 2145 an observation point. If you don't have any of that, then I would transition to providing smoke for your withdrawal if you had to do it. See your FPF in the defense. This is the one that you should have. Absolutely. If you want the other ones, go ahead, but FPF. Now don't put the FPF like right up there on you and it's 200 meters away. We're all going to laugh at you. You got to consider, start with size of the rounds. And it's in your tax out that we made, how far away you can put that FPF. And you can also have smoke. So if you're withdrawing, throw down some smoke and you get the hell out of there. Okay. Any questions on that defense? So in summary, how many targets in offense should you have?
At least one.
At least one. Very good. At least one. Where's that?
Starting, it should be on where you're going to move through, and then I'm move it onto the objective.
Yeah. So that's two. But if you're going to put just one, put it on the objective or beyond the objective. Because that's where we know the enemy is at. That's where we're going. And if the intel says there's somebody in route, then you can put one in route. But the caveat is that if it's your move is less than 600 meters, you only need one. Because if you put that one, if you want to put a target in route and it's only 200 meters from where you're at now, it's doing you no good because you can't even shoot that. That's what I mean by that. All right. So in defense, what are you going to put in defense? If we just attack this hill, we've got it. Now we're being told to hold it and defend it. Where we might want to target?
Key terrain or high-speed avenues of approach.
Oh shit, you were listening. Good job. That's right. High-speed avenue approach first. Maybe that's where you want to put your FPF, and definitely look at key terrain. Look at how they're observing you. Okay. Good. Oh, this is where I talk about. So when you are planning these targets, you must always know your relationship to that target. Why? Because distance matters. At 600 meters, you have to announce danger close because there are specific steps that each system has to go through. Delivery system, cannon, artillery, or mortars, they have to do certain steps in order to shoot for you. It means they're getting that as accurate. But what it means is they're a little bit slower because they don't want to make a mistake. And then you as an observer, once you hit that 600 meter mark and you're trying to get those rounds closer to you, you can only adjust 100 meters at a time. And then, yeah, just make sure you know what your relationship is. Does that make sense to you guys, or am I confusing you? Must be confused because nobody even shaking their head. Okay. All right. Okay. All right, review. Oh, we already did all this. Okay, the final one, how? You guys need a break? No?
I'm
Okay.
good, sir.
So how the hell do we do this? Well, first of all, we need to know what type of mission we're doing. As you just saw, where we're putting those targets at depends on the type of mission we're doing. We have to know what type of mission it is. We're doing an offensive, we're doing a defensive. Okay? And that, without even knowing what you're going to do, you kind of have a template in your head where this is where I would put targets at. And until I hear the intelligence, until I hear the commander's guidance, this is where I'm going to put, template. So you have a starting point to get started. That was my point. All right. So second step. Now you're trying to develop your timeline. You're asking these questions, just like you did. And Sergeant Ream walked you through before, just like you guys have done. When are we going to attack? When are we going to cross LD? When is the off-order breach? Tells me how much time I have to plan. It tells me when I need to do my rehearsals, when I need to go out and synchronize with assets. I get them on the phone. Hey, we're about to LD, and let's just do a communications check, whatever. Step 3. Who are your assets? Just like we went through before, who observe it, who will shoot? And do I have priority of fires for them? What does priority of fires do for you? Oops, I went back. So you got to know who's going to shoot it, because you need to know who's going to observe it. In your case, it's probably going to, be, if you're moving, it's going to be the lead squad during movement. Once you start the attack, it could be the RNS position, could be the security. Depends on who you give it to. Once you're on the objective, then it's whoever's, on the other side that can best observe that target, whichever one's at LOA. Does that make sense? That's the who, or the observer. Your part is just taking an element. Is it going to be a weapons squad? Is it going to be security? Is it going to be my lead squad? Whatever. And who's going to shoot for you? We've talked about it before. Determines the distances, determines size, yada, yada, yada. And then priority fires, again, if you have priority fires, you can call that system, you can call them immediately and get responsive fires. If you do not have priority fires, you have to call. So if you're at the platoon level, you would have to call your FO would have to call your FSO at the company, request an asset to shoot or send them the fire mission. They would send you to whoever is supporting you, so you don't have direct communication with the asset. Okay, so it's a little bit slower. Are we good on the questions so far? All right. All right, where will we have contact? We just went over this. Where am I going to plot this stuff at? Like I said before, do not put targets all over the battlefield. It would just, you won't even be able to see what's going on. There's no general rule of thumb, but if it is a significant threat or it's going to disrupt your maneuver, target it. But don't put like, that graphic or that example that I showed you guys. I stole that from somebody else. They had targets all over the place. You don't want that many targets. There's a lot of targets. Of course, it was probably for a battalion size element or larger, not for a platoon. All right, 5. What is the purpose do they serve? What is the task for fires? You're probably asking yourself, I don't know. What could those tasks be? The most common tasks: disrupt, delay, destroy, neutralize, suppress. But when I say destroy, the fire support world defines that differently than the maneuver world. So destroy here means 30% incapacitation, where in the maneuver world, I think it's 70 or 80. Neutralize is only 10%, where in the maneuver world it's 30%. And suppress is just suppress. So there's some key nuances that you need to know, but here are the tasks. So destroy, those targets are going to be on the objectives. That's what I want them to destroy. Delay, I want to delay the counterattack. I want to delay the enemy running away from the objective so that we can catch them and kill them. I want to suppress the enemy on the objective to allow us to move up and establish an ORP maybe. Okay. Here's some other tasks. I don't think you won't use that on OAL, but you're probably going to either use destroy, suppress, and delay, or disrupt. Either one of them, delay and disrupt are almost interchangeably. It just depends on how you're using it. And are there any restrictions? Usually comes down to the rules of engagement. All right. And then how will I control the fires? Do I have priority fire and I can call the FTC directly? Or do I have to call somebody else and get permission, who will then ask somebody else, like to get CAS? And you'll never be able to talk to the aircraft yourself unless you are qualified to do that. It's not really that hard. Air Force just likes to protect themselves. A planned target versus a target of opportunity. So a planned target, if you plan something and holy cow, the enemy is just pretty close to that planned target, all it is fire Alpha Bravo 1000, and then they can shoot. Target opportunity, you got to go through the whole call for fire procedure. It takes more time. All right, and then what is the trigger? So each of these targets should have some kind of criteria that you thought about previously, so that when you get into the fog of war, you're not trying to think of, should I fire the target now or should I fire it later? Should I do it now? Whatever. You determine it beforehand. That way you don't have to really think about it when the shit hits the fan. Now, the enemy has a vote. Like I said, the plan is going to be adjusted. That's why your fire support plan gets adjusted to support that maneuver plan. All right, questions? All right, any questions on this 6 questions you kind of ask yourself? So that's the way I think about it. The Army's giving you these little memory acronyms, to help you think about it. So however it best fits you, use it. I don't use these acronyms because, again, I think a little bit differently than most people. So these are the 2 most common, the one we're going to talk about. The first one, they're for different purposes. For your scenario, you're just going to brief a target and you're going to brief it to your platoon. I would use plot CR. Don't mean you have to. TT LODAC does the same thing. It's just, it puts it in an order that, the artillery battalions like to see it. So then they can just take it and put it in their matrix, and it facilitates, people just lazy. It's not really that, but let's go over them real quick. TT LODAC. Target. What's your target number? Time or trigger. I'm not going to go over all these because I've already talked about them. Do you have any questions about what any of these might be? For OAL, the attack guidance, for you guys, I wouldn't really worry about it. So there's 2 different ways you can attack a target. You can either predetermine that I want, 2 minutes of smoke, or I want 14 artillery rounds on this target. That's one way. But if the target is not what it ends up to be, what you think it's going to be, then that stuff changes. So you plan a target, spend a lot of time working on it. It's not that. Now you got to change it. Whereas you can let the FDC, you can just describe the target. Well, it's 4 guys, dug in with overhead cover. Then they will figure out how to attack it, how many rounds it's going to take to achieve the effect that you want. So you don't necessarily have to have the attack guidance short and sweet. Okay. Any questions on that one? Oh, did you call me dumb, Reed? That's messed up. All right, this is just a matrix. I'll send you guys a slide. You can look at it later. I know it looks perplexing. Don't worry, Bay. Look at the middle here. Here's TT Lodak right there. Here's an example of it filled out. Now plot CR, here's the other one. Start out with a target. Now I'm not going to take you through that. Same thing, just a different order. All right. Here's an example sample matrix that used. Again, plot CR is right here in the middle. Here's one example filled out so you can look at it. Now, at OAL, do you have to produce one of these? No. You just need to brief it in TT, Lodak, or plot CR, whatever. Okay? Let's see. Hang on a second. Let me see. I have forgotten how many of these damn things I got. Okay, very, very, very quickly, we'll run through fire support coordination measures, but I want to get to a PE real quick. Okay, fire support coordination measures. What they're designed to do is to facilitate engagement of targets, not restrict. However, they are necessary because you don't want to end up just willy-nilly shooting wherever the hell you want to. Okay, so just like all fires, the maneuver commander is the approval authority for all this stuff. Okay, 2 types: permissive, restrictive. Pretty hard to figure out what, oh, never mind. Permissive, no. I mean, permissive, yes. Restrictive, no. Oh, I'm retarded. I've been doing this too long. All right. So with permissive, okay, I'm not even gonna. Okay. All right. So we got these funny icons over here with the circles and the wheels on it. I don't know. I guess that's the striker, cavalry, team, armored, whatever. I don't know. It's not artillery, so I really don't know. All right. So you got one team or alpha team on the left side, Bravo team on the right side. So the boundaries are restrictive in nature. Bravo team can't shoot Yankee Mike 2000. Why not?
It's outside of their
That's
boundary.
past the boundary.
Yeah, there you go. It's very easy, right? It doesn't belong to you. Don't shoot my target. That's Alpha team's target. Right? Likewise, Alpha can't shoot 2001. Now, Alpha can shoot 2000 all day as long as it doesn't violate the rules of engagement or any of that other stuff. Okay? So a boundary is permissive when it's inside your target. It is restrictive when you try to go across. Now, just shooting over there in Bravo team's boundary is not enough. If you shoot along the edge, so you shoot right on the boundary, say, yeah, I'm good. Well, the effects go into Bravo team's boundary, which is a no-go. So it's all munitions and effects it must stay within your boundary. Pretty clear, right? All right, so that gives you the linear, but how about the deep fight? Well, there's things called coordinated fire line. These are very permissive in nature. So if you look at it, we got two sets of boundaries here, two units moving. And there's a line called the CFL, coordinated fire line. Any type of fires beyond that coordinated fire line is allowed. But you can see it's over here. I mean, this unit here can shoot over here. This unit can shoot over here on this side. Anything beyond the CFL, they can engage anything they want to. Normally, a unit is not going to engage past the CFL because they're in the close fight. That fight is the deep fight. The coordinated fire line means anything beyond the coordinated fire line, you can shoot it. All right, so in our example that we had, I'm not even going to say it. Free fire area is a box on there. Any type of munition can go into that as long as it stays within the box. Restricted fire areas. Yes, Sergeant Ream, it does. Going back to the boundary, not only do the boundaries restrictive in nature to indirect fire, it is also for direct fire. All of the effects and fire should remain within your boundary. Oh, yeah, good question, Sergeant. All right, so his question was, if first of the 23rd here, this task force wanted to shoot Yankee Lima 3998, could they shoot it? No, right? It's in somebody else's boundary, and it's short of the coordinated fire line. Okay. Now, if they saw somebody over there, then this is where that long echelon of fires comes from. You call your FSC, the FSC calls brigade FSC, brigade FSC calls down to 5th Battalion, 20th, what is Striker Armor? I don't know what this one is. And then they tell them about it, either get permission or turn the target engagement over to them. So it can be engaged, but you have to have clearance to do that. Now, can 5th Battalion engage 3999? That's right. Anytime, as long as that CFL is in effect, you can do that all day. Thanks, Army. Appreciate it. Restricted fire area. Okay, you remember you had the free fire area. Anything can go in there. Then you got the restricted fire area. I'm going to restrict you to only. This is where if an aircraft goes out and it still has a bomb that they haven't dropped, they can drop it right here. That's it. I don't want any artillery in there. I don't want any mortars in there. That kind of stuff. So you can restrict it to whatever you want. Where that one says no DPICM. Dual purpose improved conventional ammunition, which are little bomblets. They have a high dud rate. If you're going to walk through there, you definitely don't want to drop ICM on there. All right, restricted fire line. Now a boundary is restrictive by nature anyway. So this is all, to me, it's almost redundant. So restricted fire lines, you have two converging units. If there's a boundary, it's restrictive. Their fires or their effects can't go across there. Right? No fire area means nothing goes in there. That's useful when Sergeant Ream and Sergeant Chinnis get lost out there beyond the CFL or in somebody's AO. And we put the little NFA over there. No effects can go in there. That way they're protected. Now you can generally some of these, in urban areas, you'll see them on religious sites. You'll see them on government sites. That doesn't mean you can't not shoot in there. You can call the person who established it, in this case, 4th ID, and ask for permission to shoot in there if you absolutely have to. I'm not even going to talk about this. Hey, let's keep the aircraft, the Air Force safe, man. So in this little shaded block up here, right, we're not going to have any rounds go through that shaded block. This artillery is shooting over it, and this naval gunfire is shooting under it. So that way they have a safe place to fly. That's the airspace coordination measure. Okay. Yeah, whatever. After you do all that planning, these are the products you might see at the company level. You don't have to do that. Okay. I'm at the end of that. What questions you guys have? All right, none, because I did such a fantastic job. But let's see. So how many of you are there's 6 of you? All right, 5, 6. Okay. Let's do a little PE. Ah, damn it, come on. Where is my, there it is. If you were sent the company attack mission last week, you can pull that up. That's what I'm fixing to use. Or you can just look at my screen. Okay. So, we got work to do and people started bailing. All right. All right, so Willis, you and Barnes, you guys are an Alpha company, or first platoon Alpha company. Put it in, click, you're in second platoon. Stony and Bay, you're in third platoon. Here's what I want you to do. One of you, between the two of you, you're going to plan 2 targets. So each of you will plan 1, or you can get together and talk about it. But either plan a target en route or a target on the objective, and then I use the plot CR or the TT low deck principle. And I want you just to come back and brief the print each of those elements. Okay, so it tells you in here scheme of fires. You have company mortars. What are company mortars? What size element is that?
Section of 60s.
Right,
81.
60s are at the company, 81s at the battalion, or it could be 120, depending on the type of unit you are. But here we got 60 millimeter mortars. And there are 2 tubes. Okay. So as now 10:28 or something like that. At 10:45, come back on here and we'll brief each of the targets. Okay. Questions?
I can go first, sir.
Okay, let's get the loser over with first. The wrong answer.
Okay. Do you want me to
Yep.
share my screen or?
You bet.
Can you see it, sir?
Yeah.
Okay, so I just did a pre-planned target right on top of the objective for First Platoon Alpha. So the target number that I chose was Alpha Bravo 001, and the trigger for this target is going to be upon observation of the objective. So as soon as we're able to observe the target, that'll be the trigger for hitting the target. Location is
Say that trigger again.
once they get eyes on the objective, then they'll call in the mortars on it.
Okay.
The location is November Bravo 39507750. The observers are First Platoon Alpha Company. Alternate is CCA. Delivery is 60 millimeter mortars. Attack guidance is HE, Fuse PD. And then for comms, I put the company net frequency, net ID 562.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for him? Okay, so let's we're using 60 mm mortars. How close can we get to the target?
Pretty close.
Pretty close. All right, that's a good answer. All right, so when those risk estimate distances are based on open terrain. So if you have very thick vegetation or undulating terrain, you have some kind of terrain feature in between you and the target, you can get a little bit closer. But if there's a short round or a straight round, there's more risk. Everything can be mitigated. All right, so you said you were going to shoot it once you got into place. We're assuming that we were with, so it'd be a danger close mission probably, right? Okay, good. Okay, when you're observers, you want to put the person who can observe the target, and you said first platoon, so you can break down first platoon into its different elements. Could be the R&S team, could be the security element, could be the lead element, you know, whatever it is in your plan. That's good. Why did you pick HEPD?
That was just the fuse they always use when I was in
Yeah.
Philadelphia.
Yeah. So again, TAC guidance, unless you specifically know, you guys can just leave that blank. Don't even have to worry about it. That's why plot CR doesn't even have that in there. You know, now again, if they're in the open, I would definitely go with HEVT, which is variable time. It's more effective on troops in the open than PD. But you don't know that because you've never been trained on it. That's good. That's very good for the first one. Very good. All right, who wants to go next? All right, Willis, you're up. Where the hell is my microphone? Willis, you here? Hello. All right, Kevin, you're up.
Roger that. Okay. So for my target, I used Kilo Yankee 3001. Trigger is once we have eyes on the objective. Location is November Bravo 41607745. Our observer is our security element. We're using 4 60mm mortars. And for comms, I just put our frequency. I think you might be muted, sir.
What? Did you have a target number?
Yes, target number is Kilo Yankee 3001.
All right, good, good. Again, I would, you know, you said the trigger was when you identified the objective. You know, if you're in very wooded terrain, you may walk right up on the objective. You may not even be able to shoot it. So there are cases that you can shoot unobserved fires. So if you're moving to an objective and you want to prep that objective, you know, maybe you need more time to maneuver because while you can't see it, it is not so densely vegetated that you have a whole lot of cover to move. So maybe you want it's going to keep their heads down. So you could shoot it and hope it's hitting the target. That's why you have the observer on there, is to ensure that it's hitting the target or adjust it if it's not. But yeah, good. I mean, for the first time, that's really good. Where'd you get the extra 2 60mm mortars from?
I must not have read the op order correctly, sir.
No, at the front, I think Barnes or somebody asked how many tubes, or I asked how many tubes. I said 2 tubes, but evidently you extended your influence beyond the chain of command. You got 2 more tubes from probably, Bravo Company, those sorry suckers, and brought them over here. That's awesome. Okay. All right. Yeah. And communications, for you in both barns, there is a dedicated net. It's a fire support net. I didn't even talk about that. I apologize. But that's the net that you would talk to them on. You don't want to get on the maneuver net and say, and do a call for fire or whatever. You want to get on the maneuver net and say, the sit rep, hey, I'm calling for fire, or, provide your sit rep. This is what's happening. I'm calling for fire or something. But it just ties up the maneuver net. That's why we have the dedicated fire support net. Okay, good, very good. Who wants to go next? All right, Bay, you're up.
Right, sir. So for the purpose, neutralize the hilltop and destroy the objective. Hilltop, I have the grid coordinates November Tango 7732 bar 176, 600 meters out. Target name is Alpha Alpha 3003. And then the objective, I have November Tango 7746 4160 at 700 meters out. Alpha Alpha 3002 is the target name. Observers are the S&O team. Trigger no later than 11:30 or 1130. Comms, radio network, resources, 260 millimeter rounds, mortar rounds.
Sorry, I had a really hard time hearing you. Did you have 2 targets?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay.
I had, the hilltop.
All right, so I did hear you right.
Yeah, the hilltop and the objective.
Yeah, S&O position. I don't know why I keep saying R&S position. It's S&O. I'm sure I'll get flogged by Sergeant Ream later by that, but anyway. All right, that's pretty good. Why'd you use the plot CRO versus a TT Lodat?
Honestly, sir. Hello. So I couldn't really find the
It was shorter.
the other one. The plot CR seemed pretty straightforward.
Yeah,
So when
it does for me too. All right, click.
Yes, sir. I'm doing a pre-planned target on the communication site or the target for second platoon's raid. It's labeled CK001. The time is no later than 12 o'clock or upon the start of our raid on the communications site at November Tango 406777. 100 meters across, starting from the northwest corner to the southeast corner for 2 minutes with 260 millimeter mortars. And our observation is our security team, and communication is our frequency. Sir, you're muted again.
I suck at this. All right, anybody have questions for him? Ask some questions instead of me asking questions. Unless y'all weren't listening.
Sir, we had a second part of for our platoon. We had another target on the trail just near the objective at the time of between 12:05 and 12:10 at November Tango 409778. The observation is the security element from the same 260 millimeter mortar rounds, and that is to make sure that no reinforcements come along the road to support the enemy.
Okay. Who delivered? What's the delivery system?
The 60 millimeter mortar.
Did you say that? I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
Communications?
The radios.
Radios. Okay. Now, so what call signs or what net are you using as far as support net? I didn't tell you that. It's not in there. Okay, good. Very good. I like that one. You took in consideration the counterattack. Very good. So it could be to block, delay. That's your task. And I think Click, you had 2 tasks associated to your target. I think you said something like neutralize and disrupt, right?
I didn't say anything like that, but yes, sir, that's
Okay.
right.
I can't remember who said it. Anyway, that was you, Bay. All right, so yeah, just one task. That's good. And you guys did good. See how easy that is? It's not hard. Okay, so what I would suggest is that when you become platoon leader, platoon sergeant, whatever, and you're starting to maneuver, if you guys have somebody that's an FO, pull that dude in and tell them, start planning for it. Just tell them, here's my guidance for you. I want you to plot the objective, or I want you to target the route that they're going to take to withdraw from the objective, or where the counterattack's coming from. If there is a counterattack that is talked about in the sit temp, that's the number one thing I would talk about, or I would target. Just like what's his name, Clinton did. Okay, and that's all it has to be. And then let them figure it out. If you don't have an FO, go find a 13 Fox who used to be an ADO and put them in that position. If you can't find that, find this. When you guys are all trying to figure each other out at the very beginning in RSOI, start asking those questions. Who knows how to do call for fire? Who knows how to plan? Put that person as your FO like every time so that you're set up for success. And you guys learn this. I mean, you see how easy this is to do. You just did it. All you do is get up there and do exactly the same thing. When the platoon leader briefs, gets through the concept, operation, scheme, maneuver, turns it over to fires, plot CR or TT low deck, brief it. That's it. And you're done. You guys, it looks like superstars. Okay. What questions do you guys have?
Sir, what do you think about having the RTO plan out some of these targets so he knows right away what kind of shoot and the targets?
But it all depends on what you are going to distribute your responsibilities to. So if the RTO's responsibility is, I mean, you can tell the RTO to do whatever you want to, right? But if that person is taking notes for you, writing one of the paragraphs, and also helping build a sand table to ask them to do the fires is totally you can't handle that. So, I mean, yeah, the RTO could absolutely do it, but just make sure that's on his plate. Don't give him or her too much. Yeah, absolutely. You're the platoon leader, platoon sergeant. You delegate the task to who does what. That's my opinion. And I'll argue it all day. You could argue it all day. As long as the tasks get done, it doesn't matter who fucking did it.
Roger. Thank you.
My kids are in here. Not for you. Any other questions? That's a
Yes,
good question, though.
What are some other triggers we can use besides like eyes on and time?
Yeah, time is a very poor trigger unless your attack is it's very, very, very detailed and controlled. Now you can put a time on there and say this is when we anticipate to shoot it, but you really need a trigger, and a trigger could be so if you are blocking the counterattack and you told the security element that's on your left or right that can observe that, as soon as you see any elements, you fire that target. Once, let's say you put a target to limit the withdrawal of people in the objective. Once you start the attack, you can shoot that mortars or those artillery, at a safe distance to block their attack. So as they withdraw, they run in that artillery and stop. For the objective, when you're going to, after an OAL, you're not going to have more than 50, 75 meters, maybe visibility. So it's really, really hard to put fires on the objective unless we do unobserved fires. Again, then you could use a phase line. So measure out 600 meters or whatever it is, and make a phase line tied to terrain. As you're moving, you cross that phase line, start the fires, or start beforehand. Once you hit 600 meters, then you either want to look at shifting them off of the objective so you don't get closer and closer, or turning it off completely, or going to a smaller caliber of weapon system. So if you start at the 120s, you can go to 81s or to 60s. That way you can get closer and closer and closer. But other types of triggers. Sergeant Reed, you got any thoughts?
I think the big one's like what you just talked about, phase lines, and then you can tie that like to, I don't know, it could be its own class really about how to use graphic control measures, but you can tie fires to occupying terrain, friendly or enemy occupying terrain. So the trigger can be observation of enemy. You're muted and stuff. Observation of enemy on a piece of terrain. You occupying a piece of terrain. But I don't want to get into the whole phase line thing. Like I said, that's like its whole own thing for all different ways you can use a phase line.
Yeah. So what else? Oh, okay. The other trigger, well, at OAL, those are really the only ones that you could use. If you plan one en route, you're going to be so close to it, you're not going to be able to fire it. You can fire immediate suppression, put it behind them, and block them from withdrawing. But that's in my next class. I'm not doing call for fire this class. All right, what other questions? Good question, though. Great question. Okay, so if you guys don't have anything for me, I have one question for you guys. Now, I struggle with how much to tell you because I know a lot, and it's hard for me to sometimes put myself in your position, how much you know. So I want you to give me some feedback. Was this too much? Was it just enough? Did you get out of it? Can you go plan a target? And any other feedback for me? Hey, do this different next time, or because really I felt like I was talking all the time. And I told Sergeant Reed, I said, I'm not going to talk. I'm going to have them talk. And it didn't turn out that way. So
You say you're doing the next class too, sir?
now I'm going to do call for fire at some point, but not the next class.
Okay. Well, I think it's good information. I don't think it's too much at all. I mean, you have to know about what you're doing in order to do it.
Okay, was it presented in a logical manner that you could follow it?
Yeah, it made sense to me. I think that you dumbed it down enough to where it's good for like if you haven't seen it before.